Anyway, this is the Will to Worship, where your worship is for real, and I'm your host, of course, Jeanelle. I'm excited as well because I have a very, very special guest in the room with me. Her name is Daisy Copelin, and she actually came up with a book about her life. It's called The Diary of an Overcomer, an inspirational story of true love, hope, triumph, and victory. And she's my friend. So when we come back, we're going to hear from Daisy, and we're going to hear her story and how God has brought her through a mighty long way. He's definitely given her hope, love, triumph, and victory. So with that being said, don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss it. This is a Will to Worship, y'all. And so congratulations. I'm super excited for you and what you're doing. So tell us about your diary, the diary of an overcomer. Why are you overcomer? What did God do in your life?
Well, pretty much what it is like, I would call it my life story. It deals with so much. It starts off with the Department of Social Service trying to get my mother to abort me.
Wow.
But nevertheless, she didn't because she grew up in a Christian home.
Nice.
And then I was adopted into a family of 12. And it was just
12.
Yeah.
Was it growing up?
It was a lot. It was crazy. It was noisy, but there was always something to do.
Wow. That's a lot.
You don't get lonely. And it started off with it started off with me actually having so much dreams. I structured it after the story of Joseph. And it started off with God giving him a dream. I had dreams of me writing books. I had dreams of me speaking to people and inspiring people or what have you. And then chapter 2 goes into dream term nightmare, where God had given me these dreams, but now the enemy is doing anything to prevent that dream from coming
And
to
that's
pass.
what the ultimate hater would do. That's him.
Yes.
I call him the deval. I know that's funny, but
Yes.
he's the ultimate hater, so he will do that.
Yes. And then eventually, it talks about sensitive issues such as me being molested by family members.
Is this in your adopted family?
In my adopted family. Yes. And then it goes into me struggling with suicide, me struggling with drugs and alcohol. It talks about a lot, me struggling with my identity as a girl and me not wanting to be a girl. I wanted to be a guy growing up. And then it eventually just talks about how at 14 years old, this lady delivers, the preacher's wife, she delivers loaves of bread to the house and extends the invitation for us to go to church. And we're able to go to church. And through that, I started preaching when I was 15 years old.
Crazy, Miss Carr that we just listened to. And
it was pretty cool, being in the church. I considered it my safe haven throughout my teenage years. I had mentors that, they started speaking into my life. They really, really stayed on top of me regarding school. And before I came to them, I was struggling academically and behaviorally in school. And I had just got done getting left back. So that wasn't pretty cool. But anyway, then I started making honor roll, and then
nice, see?
Yeah, and I ended up graduating, and she showed up. The preacher's wife showed up at my graduation, so that was pretty cool. And then I went off to college, and then things took a downturn. Yeah. So I started going to college, and then pretty much even though I was going forth in the things of God, I was preaching the gospel, I was witnessing or what have you, behind closed doors, I was struggling with so much. It was kind of I was living a double life. I didn't believe that God loved me. I thought I had to do things to earn the love of God. And in all actuality, I didn't have to, but I didn't know that at that particular time. And then when I went away to college, that's when I guess I experienced freedom. And then those desires that I had, homosexual desires as a child, that's when I started entertaining them more so. And then I just fell into a lifestyle of lesbianism, and I was backslidden. And things that I did privately, it was now more so I did it publicly.
So a lot has happened in between the time that, you were almost aborted.
Yes.
Until now. Okay, so you said in the beginning, the social service department wanted your mom to abort you. Why did they want to do that?
I didn't understand it then, and I just recently found it out before she passed. But ultimately, I believe that the enemy, God had a plan for my life, and the enemy knew that. So the enemy would do anything to prevent that from coming to pass. So that was I talk about some other near-death experiences. So it was just attempted suicide when I was 14 years old. So ultimately, the enemy's plan was to take me out. But because of the hand of God upon my life, I'm here today. So.
That's crazy because you was preaching at 15. You think they would have never got me on that stage at 15?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, not even now after being in seminary school. So you brave girl, and you're very brave for sharing your story. I mean, you're putting your whole life in a book, so everyone could see it. But that's the beauty of God, because He helps you throughout all of this. And now, like you said, you are loved. You have hope. You are triumphant, and you have victory. And a lot of people need to see that and hear that. Oh my gosh, I went through that too. A lot of people are gonna say that. You know what, Daisy? I went through that too, and I wasn't. Probably gonna say I wasn't as strong enough to tell people like you are, and you have helped me to get that strength. So that's amazing, and that's the reason why I wanted you to be on the show today, because there's a lot of teens and young adults, or even it doesn't matter who that person is, how old that person is, they're gonna be able to relate to you in some sort of way. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people who've been molested, and the devil really tried to wipe them out early in the game of life. Okay, so there's a lot going on with your testimony. Well, first, I have to ask you a question. What compelled you to say, I'm going to write this book, I'm going to do this, I'm going to tell people my story?
Well, growing up, I always knew that God was going to use my story. It was just like in the back of my mind. I wasn't able to comprehend it or anything like that. But ultimately, I got into the poetry scene, and just knowing that, people were sexually abused and people have gone into homosexuality, and people keep that a secret. Growing up, I never ever heard a story, somebody get in front of the church and say, hey, I was living from homosexuality.
That bold, yes, right?
Yeah. No one has ever said that. So if somebody would have said that, it would have prevented me from actually going into that lifestyle, because it was like crazy. When I went into that lifestyle, I didn't know that God is able to deliver somebody from that. I didn't know that people had struggles and God was able to help them. I went into that lifestyle assuming that, pretty much there's no hope for me. So I'm more compelled to tell my testimony because, there's lots of homosexuals out there and lots of lesbians, and people just don't believe that there is hope, that they could come out of that lifestyle. So I want to be that hope to say, hey, I've been there, and I know what you've experienced, and by the same token, God is a deliverer, and there's nothing too hard for God. So
exactly. And a lot of times people, I really truly believe people think that they're born this way, because you have media saying, or what's her name, Lady Gaga,
yeah.
Singing songs about being born this way, and you know what? To be honest, she's leveraging the homosexual community. LGBT. I'm sorry, LGBT community. But she's affirming them, telling them, okay, no, it's okay to be this way. And you know what? Most of the world is telling people it's okay to be this way, and it's not like the church has done a great job either, unfortunately. Like you said, no one was really saying anything. And people who are in this situation, there's a lot of people who are in the church that are not saying anything. And they're dating the opposite sex, thinking that they can just cover it up. And then some of them are getting married, still having this situation. And unfortunately, lives are being shattered, or not shattered, because God can definitely bring that back and put the pieces back together. But these families are being created, children are being born, and some of the parents still have that issue. And so how important is it to really be whole and healed from that situation before moving on? What do you think?
As far as moving on,
like being healed, because I've noticed so many people who go through this situation and they don't say anything. Unfortunately, there was a young man in my church who died not because he was homosexual. You don't die because of it, but he continued to mess with men, and he never stopped, and he caught a disease. So it's he's a beautiful person. He was a beautiful person, but that doesn't stop you from still having a real tangible issue, So before you even answer that, how was it being in the church and being in that situation, being homosexual and not feeling like you had anybody to help you?
It kind of puts you in a category where you feel alone. because
Yeah.
no one else is voicing their opinion on their struggles. I feel like sometimes what's lacking in the body of Christ is transparency. Like people,
True.
and when you sit up there and you like not be real about your struggles or what you're going through, you kind of hinder somebody else that is going through it. That process as well. Like me coming forth with my testimony, which I have been doing, whether I was witnessing, whether it was in poetry, whatever the case might be, oftentimes people were able to relate to that. And oftentimes certain pieces, like they was able to throw a poetry piece together, like, wow, if she could do that,
Exactly.
if she could be transparent about what she went through and what she's struggling with, then I could be transparent too. So it kills the whole silence scheme.
Exactly.
And other people get hurt because you never know who's struggling with what. And
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't say something about it and say, hey, I struggle with this, but God is able to do it, then, I mean, you just leave people out there that believe that there's no hope or there's no help.
Yeah, and then they're dying in silence, and then you don't see the power of God because people want to be silent and not really truly tell what God has done in their lives. They're trying to like mass, I understand it's very bold and it's hard to go about telling your testimony. So I'm thankful that you're doing so. And so you were molested when you were a kid and you lost two of your parents. I mean, tell us a little bit about that. And I know that there's some kids, some teens, some adults that could relate to that as well.
Yeah, so being molested, it causes, I mean, when you're a child, you don't really think of it as that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much guilt, there's so much shame because in your mind, there's an inner conscience that says there's something wrong with this behavior. But how do you go to somebody and say, I'm doing something wrong?
Exactly. And it's not exactly you doing something wrong, but you feel like you're doing something wrong. You feel like it was your fault.
Yeah.
Did you feel like, a lot of kids do feel like that.
Yeah. So in my mind, I was saying like it automatically deemed you as different. And it was just like, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something disgusting. It caused you to feel like low self-worth and stuff like that. And it caused me to ultimately just, I struggled with a lot from drug and alcohol to, low self-esteem, overly shy, lack of trust, built up walls. I didn't trust anybody. So that's kind of like the contributive factors or what have you. But and I told myself that I would never, ever tell anybody. But when God brought me to a place of healing and I no longer felt like it was my fault, when you hear something like, okay, what you thought for years was your fault is not really your fault.
It's so freeing, right?
Yes, freedom. So then that was like, that's when God started dealing with me. Like, you got to get your testimony out there.
Wow.
Or what have you. Because, I mean, silence is deadly.
It is. People are dying in silence. That's crazy. So I'm glad that you said that. And so through that, God connected you with a youth ministry.
Yes.
I truly believe that God, he's the one that helped you to get from where you were to where you are now. But he has to use people to do that. And so people think that, you can get touched and be completely delivered from something. And I don't know, maybe that's the case, yes. But I think that as human beings, because we have a memory, because we have a past of hurt and pain, we need to be delivered, and it takes time. So you were discipled. That's the word. You were discipled, and so you were part of a youth ministry. Big ups to youth ministry. I'm just so excited about youth ministry. We are both in youth ministry. We feel dedicated to. We feel like our lives should be dedicated to building up the youth of today, and we both work with the organization called Young Life, and we work with our churches as well. And we just see the power in working with teens. And so how was that for you? You had great youth leaders, right?
Yes. It was an amazing experience. I mean, from day one, and I came in, like, I transitioned into, dressing like a guy, what have you. And it was like, I came in that way. So it was just like.
Oh, so you used to dress like a.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I mean, I just, now I like to have visuals, like, okay,
I guess.
to some things, but yeah.
Yeah, so in my mind, I was saying, like, okay, I'm in the church, like, they're going to definitely view me a certain type of way, but it wasn't like that at all.
That's awesome.
Yes, like, they definitely looked beyond all of that.
Yes.
And they immediately, upon day one, made their self-accessible, exchanged numbers, and, assured me that they were there for me and they was going to help me through the process. And we had youth service every Friday night. ministry, and I had this hysterical youth pastor that was able to reach everybody and just so loving, so concerned, and just like walked me every step of the way, through the highs, the lows, because it was challenging coming out of that lifestyle and just dealing with, all my past behaviors.
Exactly.
And, outbursts, and they got the anger issues and me being disrespectful. And ultimately, they just looked beyond all of that, and they looked not at where I was in my present state, but they looked at my potential state, saw where God was taking me, spoke into my life, and just ignored what I was in. So it kind of like youth ministry and like my youth pastor and youth leaders, they helped me to like, I told you that I had struggles like, perceiving God's love for me. So just here it is, a human being now, and they love me unconditionally. And here it is. So it caused me to really, really believe that God loved me. And ultimately, like, that's what helped me through the whole process. Like, God loves me. And, it was amazing to have an amazing support team. I wouldn't have been where I'm at today if it had not been for them in the youth ministry.
You actually just, brought to my attention that it's very important as ministers or people who love Christ to ask God to help you to love people unconditionally. That's hard.
It is.
Like, it's hard, and maybe we can't fully love them unconditionally, but we can ask God to help us do it. We can ask God to help us not react to the behavior, but to see the heart of the people, and for God to just show us to love the unlovely, because there's a lot of people out there that's not lovely, and it's really because of where they came from. And so that reminds me of another young lady that's in my life that I particularly honestly do not like. I don't like her, but I say hi to her. I'm respectful to her.
What's her name?
I'm not saying her name. You so silly. And we are not talking about people up in here. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't particularly like her because of what she's done to me. Not because of like, but God is helping me, and I'm just gonna confess, like, I'm human, just like you're human. And but God is, and while you were talking, I was just like, dang, Jeanelle, you have to love her because she went through a lot. And I'm looking at you on the other side. Like, God is not done with you yet, but God has brought you. He snatched you out the hands of the enemies, out of the enemy, and out of the plans of the enemy. And the enemy has plans for you, but God has a hedge of protection around you, and so you're gonna be good. And so this young lady, she's still acting out, and she's a older young lady too. But the point I'm trying to make is that with your testimony, God showed me that, or reminded me as you were speaking, that I need to still love her and maybe reach out to her more, though her actions don't say that she wants to receive it, So thank you for sharing that. And so you went through a lot. So you went to college. You just graduated last year.
Yes.
Congratulations. I'm super proud of you, girl. I'm very proud of you. Yes, I'm clapping up for you.
I'm proud of me too.
That's good. That's good. I'm proud of you. You went to college. And so where do you see yourself now? Where do you feel like God is taking you? I know it's poetry and there's more.
I don't know.
And that's okay.
Yeah, other than youth ministry with Young Life and my current job, maybe more books in the near future. I'm actually working on another one. So, I don't know.
And that's fine, because a lot of people think that they have to know exactly what's going on. But with God, he's not going to tell you everything. And I think that the fact that he's giving you this book is a great start. Like, there's a lot to do with this book. You got to promote it. You gotta,
tell me about
you gotta promote this book. You gotta tell people about it. You gotta have more speaking engagements. You gotta open your heart to people and let people see what's there. And so that's alone is a huge project for your future. So I want to know more about your poetry. When did you start writing poetry?
I started writing poetry when I was 14 years old.
Nice.
It was crazy because I didn't know I knew how to write poetry. But Montel Williams, I was a big fan of Montel Williams. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He's a pastor.
Is he really?
Montel Williams, the singer?
Yes.
He's a pastor. I
not
sat.
the singer. That's Montel Jordan.
Jordan. Yeah, you're right.
He's a speaker. He's a speaker.
Montel
He
Williams.
was a speaker.
You're talking about the
TV show host.
talk show
I think
host.
now he has like multiple sclerosis.
The talk show. Yeah, he does has MS.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So
I've never heard anybody say I'm a big fan of Montel Jordan.
No, I was a big fan of Montel Williams.
Oh, okay.
Back in the day. I mean, I was younger.
What's wrong with that?
I mean, nothing.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. No. Go ahead. You're a big fan of Montel Williams.
So I didn't know I knew how to write poetry or anything like that, but I saw a cash prize and it was a poetry contest. So I was like,
he had it?
Yes.
Really?
It was like, I was 14 years old, so it was like many years back.
You in these contests, huh?
Yeah, so I was just like, I didn't know if I knew how to write poetry, but I was like, I'm going to try. Like, I'm going to see if I know how to write poems.
See, I like that. Because some people, like, they look at themselves and they say, I'm not this. So they put themselves in these small, tiny boxes, but they don't do what you do and say, you know what, I'm gonna try this and maybe this could be something else, and look where it's taking you. But go ahead, I want to hear more.
That's actually true. And then the piece was entitled "Freedom Was Needed" back in 1850.
Whoa!
I actually got selected.
Look how deep. 14 years old.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, and it actually went on the internet, and I think it got published in like a book of poetry. And I actually had the opportunity to go down there and do the banquet or what have you, and I guess perform the piece. But my parents didn't take me for whatever reason. But I believe then it was just like God giving me a glimpse. That's all I saw it as.
That what he can do if you just step outside the box. Yes, y'all. Step outside the box. The box is holding you down. You better step outside of it. Have some faith. And, you know, it might be scary, but you like we were talking about earlier on the break, we were talking about the definition of courageous. And it's really just doing something when you're afraid. Doing it anyway. The feeling of being afraid is not going to go away, but you should do it anyway, and that's being courageous. Because I think some people think being courageous is like they're not afraid. No, those people that you know throughout history who've done things like Peter walking on water, I'm sure he was terrified.
Of course.
Jesus going to the cross, he was terrified. You know, Martin Luther King was terrified. Malcolm X terrified.
That's crazy.
Daisy Copelin terrified. So you did that. That's awesome. And so what do you do now with poetry?
Yeah, so then now, I mean, what I do is I switch it up into spoken word poetry, but because it was before it was written, so it was like I didn't really know what spoken word poetry was. But 22 years old, I was out of college, I went to a poetry slam, and this guy went up and did a poetry piece. It was spoken word poetry, and I was like, I've got to learn that. It was just like he went in.
It's like he can't. So the difference between written and spoken, because I didn't really know there was a difference, is like what they like acted out more is more like.
Well,
please explain to me.
Well, written is meant to be, read.
Just written.
Written is meant to be read. But spoken word poetry is you memorize it and you just like literally go in and perform it. And you're able to actually feel what that person is going through with that piece.
So I like spoken word.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Like it's crazy. And then I just started doing that when I was 22 years old. I did my first poetry slam, and then like people were blown away. It was like my first poetry piece. I was kind of scared in a way because it was like my first spoken word piece, and people were just like, "Where have you been the whole semester? Like you need to be a part of the poetry club." And
that was at Nyack?
Yes. It was actually Suffolk County.
Oh, okay.
My Suffolk County Community College, and then I moved out here, and that's when I got saved. And then I didn't know where to go, but God led me to lead a poetry club in 2011 at my school. And I was terrified because it was just like, God, I don't know how to lead anything.
Exactly.
And through that,
he just pushes you out there like, you going to do this.
And I didn't know what was going to take place. Like when I started the club and then I started performing, people just started inviting me out like, yo, you've got to come to my church.
And let me tell you now, I'm on my Facebook page and I see your face pop up. And I'm like, wait, she on Greg's event? You on this? Like, I see you just interacting with different people, and I see that you're booked in different amongst the different communities of like, yeah. And I'm like, I know that girl. Look at her becoming all famous and whatnot.
Yeah, it kind of scared me because it was just like, I mean, God has just literally opened so many doors through that. And it's like, I always ask God, give me the ability to create life transforming pieces that don't just sound good, but that really make a difference in the lives of young people. So it's a way to kind of captivate their attention because they know spoken word poetry, they know lyrics, but it has like a different message.
Exactly. So, you could feel it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we were just, actually, Daisy and I were just talking about music. So we're about to be done. But Daisy, what do you like to do nowadays? Like what music do you listen to just to get to know you a little bit? Because we got to go, unfortunately.
I mean, I'm a spoken word poet, so I like Christian hip hop.
We were talking about hip hop. Who's your your top. I will say the top three.
Top three.
Top.
I would say Lecrae, Andy Mineo, and the Ambassador.
Okay, so you got both 116 click. Like you got the 116 click 1 and 2,
Yes.
and Ambassador. He's I forgot what. I forgot.
Know either, but
I know it's. Forgot it. I forgot. But anyway, they all three of them are dope. You're right. I love the three of them. I love the Truth as well. He's definitely hot as well. So I like that. And so we got to know Daisy and definitely get to know her better. I mean, you can go to her page, her Facebook page. She can be like, what?
Yeah.
Daisy Copelin. Yeah, go to her Facebook page. Go to daisycopelin.com.
Yes.
Correct? You can email her at info@daisycopelin.com.
Yes.
And how else can they get your book and your information?
If you just go to the website, my website, you could find out all that information as well as the Facebook. I'm trying to get new with Twitter, but it should have so many features. I don't know how to work it.
First of all, Daisy in her mid 20s. She sounds like she's 50. No. I'm lying. I'm just laughing at you because I feel the same way. I really am not big on Twitter. And people like, you on the radio and television, you don't do Twitter? No, ma'am. I do Instagram though because I could just post that pic and that's it. I don't have to say much. But so where can I get your book? Where can we get your book?
Well, you can get it Amazon, Barnes and Noble, my website.
Shorty's in Barnes and Nobles. That's hot. So she's in Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, your website, and what else?
Book Locker, Books a Million, a couple of other. It's a lot of websites actually.
Wow. So do you have like a PR crew or something? How you?
I don't know what
you
PR
did all
crew
that
is.
yourself?
Yeah.
Shoot, and she's a hustler. I love it. Hustler for Christ. I know I am too, so I can relate one hustler to another for Christ.
Yes. Hustlers for Christ.
Hustlers, we gonna come up with something like that. We doing it big for Christ here. Thank you so much, Daisy. I appreciate you, and this is not gonna end, of course.
Thank you.
There's so much more for you. You heard it first on the World of Worship. Daisy Copelin, when her book gets humongous and big, you're gonna be like, oh, I heard her on the World of Worship before. She was there a long time ago. Exactly.
Yes.
So and then when she gets big with her poetry and stuff like that, you've heard it here first. Thank you so much, y'all. Remember to check us out every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and then again at 7 p.m. Remember to check us out at soundboothradio1.com. Check out our Facebook page, Soundbooth Radio. Check out our other Facebook page, which is Soundbooth Networks, and the whole shebang. With that being said, remember to love yourself, love people, and love God. Peace. Take care. You want to say bye?